How many times have you promised yourself this time you're gonna do it, you're gonna learn the language, and then this short-lived enthusiasm fades away and you're back to square one? Why does it happen? This is Kasia speaking to you, and in this podcast I give you 10 tips which I believe will help you stay persistent in pursuing your goal. Just to be clear, the tips you hear may appear obvious to you, I know, but they are so universal and it might be used in any other field of your life when you are striving to achieve your goal. The paradox here is that they are so obvious, but I, as a language teacher, need to constantly repeat them to my students. And the students, after being given these tips and being given a bit of motivation, their only task is not to give up. But unfortunately, they do it. They easily give up. And if I were given a penny every time I repeat one of these tips, I would be running my language school as a charity. And I'm taking the liberty of giving to you these pieces of advice. Why? I had to learn English. It's not my mother tongue. I studied other languages too, more as a hobby, but still. And I had to get used to putting the things you're gonna hear into practice. Okay, so let's get started. Tip number 1. Be persistent. The process of language learning is similar to any other ones, such as working out at the gym, getting in a better shape, or sticking to a diet. Once you've set your goals, stick to it. However, let them be doable. Don't get overambitious because it might turn out to be a dead end. You'll not be able to stick to your plan because reality is always harder than expectations. Persistence is not about doing as much as you can. It's about doing it regularly. So, as a good start, have a deal with yourself. I'm gonna practice 15 to 20 minutes a day or every second day. It will do more good than throwing yourself in at a deep end with a resolution to 2 hours every day. You might simply not be able to find time during the day and you might give up too soon. If you don't feel any pressure because you are getting ready to some exams, your boss doesn't require you to know the language, why the rush and pressure? Small steps are sufficient, guys. Another crucial factor. Learning a language involves a lot of self-studying. And practice with a teacher may also boost your progress, but a teacher is just a mentor, a coach, somebody who shows you what and how to study. The rest is up to you. The rest meaning hard work. 16 or 90 minutes a week is a great job with a teacher, but when you compare it to 24 hours times 7, it's like almost nothing. So really, you should devote more time to learning if you want to see a progress. Do homework if your teacher gives you some, surround yourself with the language, speak to yourself, to the mirror or in your mind. Talking for 10 minutes to yourself sounds weird? Think how much vocabulary and grammar structures might appear or be refreshed, or it may be some kind of a trigger to look for new words. And the vocab you're actually using during talking to yourself is useful because you're using it and you're thinking of it. And what's more, you will get familiar with yourself talking in another language. Some of my students feel some kind of blockade because they're not used to the sound of another language and are even intimidated to speak to themselves. And once you fight it, it will be easier to open yourself and start speaking with others. And language learning might be compared with working out at the gym or struggling to lose some weight. Your trainer or dietitian will of course help you, but the final outcome is down to you. Persistence is your ally here. Of course, find the balance, don't overwhelm yourself. I want you to stay positive and enjoy the whole process. These factors are also very important and very often underestimated. And how to stay positive and how to enjoy it? Find your motivation. Ask yourself a question. Why am I doing it? From my teaching experience, I can tell you one of the strongest motivator is when students need it for a job or have to live in a foreign country where the mother tongue is not used. So probably the motivation is not 100% inner. Somebody or the situation forces them to learn, but there are people who like being obliged to do something and the motivation from the outside works better for them. If not a job, think about your health and brain condition once you turn 80. Language learning has a huge impact on preventing brain aging and can also prevent Alzheimer's disease. Surprise? So join my team and start learning just for the sake of your brain. And apart from the goal itself that should motivate you, another key factor is deriving a pleasure from learning. The process of learning is very long. The way to achieve your goal might be bumpy, and from time to time, you might be feeling as if you were riding a roller coaster. But if it's a pleasure, you will survive. I can share with you my experience. The English language is my passion, and I've always enjoyed it. And I am so over the moon on the thought of the process will never stop. There will always be something new to learn. And I also have a very crazy period and experience in my life of studying Arabic. So the motivation came out from my language, I would say linguistic curiosity, if I may say so. But at some point, I was informed, at some point of studying, I was informed I would not be able to communicate. Communicate, can you imagine? So I would not be able to communicate with Arabic people since I was studying the course book, the grammar correct Arabic, and not the one used by natives, not the dialects, and there are hundreds of them in that language. And I remember that situation well. Once I learned it, I was informed about that. I was a bit pissed off, hopeless. I had the feeling of time wasted at the university. So no matter how big your motivation may be, and in my case, no matter how big motivation I had at that point, it was gone forever when I learned about the fact that I would not be able to communicate. So if you still see the point of learning, you will stay on the right track. Point 3, regularity. If you don't use it, you lose it. This is me and my Arabic adventure. After years of not studying the language, I can barely remember how to speak it. I remember just basics. So even if it's 10 minutes every second day, do it. 30 minutes once a week, do it. 5 minutes a day, do it. Do it regularly. You don't have 15 minutes? Find an app. For example, Duolingo, which will take just 5 minutes a day. Or play a song in the language that you're learning. Surround yourself and be proud of yourself when you notice you stick to a new habit. And the more you focus on the language, the more you revise it, the more important it appears to your brain. If you spend more and more time, your brain will start to realize, oh, it is something I should be paying more attention to. They are switching to a foreign language almost every day. It's high time I started doing it too. So expose yourself to a foreign language so your brain will experience the same. After some time you will realize you understand more from the news, songs or books. So summing up, just the 3 points I mentioned. Try to build a new habit, even if it's a few minutes a day. Try to combine it with another activity. Let's say do a lesson with an app while drinking your morning coffee, or creating sentences with 5 new words while brushing your teeth. Something that is easy to put into practice and is doable. Anything will do. Or do something pleasurable. Watch your favorite series in English. And by doing so, you will not have the feeling you failed because you didn't have time to study with a course book for an hour. Tip number 4, be patient. Learning a foreign language is a never-ending story. It's like a ride on a roller coaster with ups and downs. It's a great lesson of patience. Learn the language in 6 or even 3 months. Don't believe in such a bullshit. I would be unemployed if that was true. Or, with my passion to linguistics, I would probably be fluent in all the 3 European languages. Polyglots sometimes devote most of their lives to master a new or master a few languages. And of course, you can catch the elementary knowledge or even more, depending how much you spend on it and how deeply you are immersed. But you will not be an advanced student after just a few months. Think how much it took for you to master your mother tongue. Oh, wait a sec. You haven't mastered it completely, and you and I will never do. Anyway, it took a few years to acquire a mother tongue at the communicative level when we were children. And language learning is a complex process. It's like with gaining or losing weight. You will not gain or lose it after a few cheat meals or a few days of detox. Rome wasn't built in one day, so be good to yourself, be understanding, and be patient. Let's move on to point number 5, and let's bust the myth, which is unfortunately still on. Don't ask me how many times I heard I must have been born with some special ability to acquire languages, and there are people who just have it. Yeah, tell me about it. Ready to learn the hard truth? It's not a talent, it's hard work. Of course, you might be advantaged with a perfect pitch when you're a musician, or at least you may have a great sense of hearing, and such a person may acquire the correct pronunciation faster and have a better listening comprehension. Or you might be lucky to be born in a bilingual or multilingual family, so you'll be acquiring more than one language from the early stages of your life. But you will never learn the language if you don't practice. So again, be regular, be patient, persistent, and so on. And stop believing in the myth that you must be born with some special skill and ability. If Mozart hadn't practiced so hard, he wouldn't have become who he became. Unfortunately, this myth sometimes works as an excuse. If you really don't feel like learning the language, why doing so? Find another hobby if your inner motivation is not so strong and you would truly devote your time to doing something else, something that you really enjoy. Point 6. Surround yourself with English. Use the sources you enjoy. Podcasts, movies, series, favorite songs, YouTube. All of these are full of living language. And you enjoy it, and it's a good stimuli for your brain. How cool is that? Find something appropriate to your level. If you work with a teacher, they should give you a hint and suggest good sources. And we have an easy access to the internet nowadays, where there's plenty of sources in different foreign languages. When it comes to English, it is everywhere. And don't worry if you don't understand every single word of what they're saying in the news or podcasts. The more you surround yourself, the more you will be getting from it. Point 7. Find the methods that suit you. Sometimes it may help when you know your learner type. You can be a visual learner, so you memorize effectively images. You can be an auditory learner when you memorize a lot when you listen and repeat out loud, or kinesthetic learner when you have to move or touch something to learn, or you learn through experience. It's worth checking it. There are some tests on the internet, but it may turn out you're not only one type, but a combination of 2 or 3. And take the results with a pinch of salt. You may realize that some of the tips how to learn actually fit, but some of them might be totally useless in your case. So pick whatever works for you and put it into practice. My tips for visual learners: making notes, mind maps, using highlighters, colors. Auditory learner could be listen to news and repeat to yourself what you've just listened to. And actually, it's a great practice for everyone, no matter the learner type. Kinesthetic, walk or move around the room and learn at the same time. Grab something and fiddle with it while studying. Create your own examples or ridiculous sentences, and imagine you are a teacher. You're a teacher explaining something, which is again a great practice for everyone. Point 8. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Please make them. It is so important to make mistakes while learning. It's an inseparable part of language learning. We learn from mistakes. Regardless of your origins, very often, as victims of the education system we grew up in, as adult users of English or another foreign language, we want to be hypercorrect. You don't need to be hypercorrect to speak and to be communicative. As native speakers, we also make mistakes. And who cares? No one. The fear of making mistakes while speaking will do no good but just block you. It's better to speak with mistakes and then correct them with your teacher rather than saying nothing. It's nothing wrong to make mistakes. This is life. By the way, do you think anyone cares about your mistakes? Natives don't give a shit. They're happy you're using the language and try to communicate. And probably they'll help you and make the conversation as smooth as possible. Do you think they care if you add the S to the verb? Or use the simple or continuous tense? Or, I don't know, their guilty pleasure is munching on chips and checking emails from you to spot mistakes? Do you believe you are so important and they have nothing else to do? They will be glad they could communicate with you, and because probably what they care about is the successful act of communication, and they'll be happy you're using the language. Imagine somebody wants to speak your mother tongue. Would you encourage and help them, or would you interrupt their speech to point out mistakes? I really believe you are far from doing the second one. And coming back to grammar, I am very passionate about it, and we need it, and grammar can change the context completely. However, I also emphasize vocabulary is more important than grammar to successfully communicate. As a teacher and user of English, I appreciate it more when someone speaks and tries to convey their thoughts than explain some grammar rules and cannot utter anything because they're so focused on grammar structures. And I believe in people and really hope the ones you will meet on your way will be altruistic. But if you come across such a moron who will dare to correct your grammar, you should be the one who doesn't give a shit. Probably you will never meet them again. And why should you care then? And all the fears I mentioned before may come from our school years. We start developing inferiority complex or other ones. We stop believing in ourselves, and school doesn't help at all. Think about children and their language acquisition before they go to school. Their brains are like sponges, of course, but there is another crucial factor. They are not afraid to make mistakes. Think about learning how to walk. We don't give up. We are not afraid to fall and rise. Yeah, we rise to our feet over and over again. Think about it when you learn the language. Don't give up, even after a long break and after many mistakes. Don't lose hopes. Rise to your feet, I would say, metaphorically. And last but one, student-friendly atmosphere is very crucial. If you attend group or individual classes, it's also in the teacher's hands. Student-friendly meaning with no stress, no pressure, no crazy deadlines. Of course, life's life, and sometimes we need to meet deadlines, and for some students, stress is motivating. But it will not be in the long run. If you constantly work under pressure, you will burn out quickly and you will get discouraged. You might stop enjoying the classes and the language itself. So you're more likely to give up then. The final one. Find a good teacher. At some point, teacher may turn out to be indispensable. Indispensable by showing methods of learning and the proper way. How the process should go, what to study first, second, and so on and so forth. What to study, what would be useful. They can show to SEF students the things they have to catch up with. I have met a lot of SEF students over the years, and I was very often impressed by their skills. However, there were also cases when they didn't know grammar. They didn't know grammar at all, or couldn't use some vocab in a correct context. Sometimes somebody learns something with a mistake and then make the same mistake over and over again without even realizing it was incorrect. So a teacher will be there for you to correct the mistakes you haven't noticed before. And honestly, it takes much bigger effort from the teacher and the students to root out the mistakes and teach the correct language than introducing something completely new to a student. And the other thing is chemistry. You need to feel it when you meet your teacher. It's like with a hairdresser or your fitness trainer. You just get on with them, and you don't want to change them. It's like getting on like a house on fire, or it can be less than that, but you might be on the same wavelengths, and it can also encourage you to learn more. Of course, a qualified and knowledgeable teacher is number one priority. And also find somebody who can show you the language and the process of learning in a very interesting way, far different from the one taught at schools, and somebody who will teach you a modern language, not the archaic and old-fashioned one. They will show you great internet sources, course books, which you'll probably enjoy. And what else? A teacher can motivate you when you need it. Even when you get lazy and you feel like giving up today, you look into your calendar and, oh, there is no other way as to get up and meet your teacher because you have an appointment. Yeah? So you cannot give up. And don't you think you're more likely to give up when you know no one is waiting for you in the classroom? It's like with a workout. When you know your trainer is there waiting for you, or the whole group is there waiting for you, it's harder to give up. What's more, working with a teacher will save your time. Why should you fly blind in search for good sources, or learn something with the mistakes, or not to be sure if you're actually learning the language which is in use? If you can spare some time out of your 24 hours, make it well spent. So, in a nutshell, be persistent, try to build regular habits, be patient, surround yourself with the language, find a good motivation and stay motivated. Stop believing in the myth you need some special superpowers to master a language. Try to overcome your fears and blockades. Practice the attitude, who cares? That should help, really. And find a good teacher and learn in a student-friendly atmosphere. Be ready to take these tips seriously and actually put them into practice. That's the key. Remember, it's like with building new muscles or losing weight. To make it really work, you need to do it. You need to work for it. And it must be you who is doing it, not like anyone else. No matter how great your teacher is, how motivating your group is, it is up to you how much you will get out of the adventure with the language learning. It was Kasia speaking to you. Hope you will put this into practice, and day after day, you will be becoming prouder and prouder of your language skills. Thank you. Bye-bye.